I am 1000% unemployable.
What we do is risky, but having a job is risky too.
You freaking slam your head against the wall in business, and you learn the hard way. And that was one of the hard things that we learned in our first business.
Up on the shop, up on the shelf. There was an old microphone that tried it out for himself. His name is Russ. He bought that mic, and now he's got a podcast show.
Hello again, and welcome to the Blue Cup Podcast. You know what to do. Like and subscribe. There's a little bell below. And most importantly, we love comments. So if Chad says something controversial today, which he probably will, I'd love to have your comments on it. And we'd love to hear what you'd like to learn or know or topics we could cover. So comments are very important. Like and subscribe. And I'm very excited to have my friend Chad on today. We've known each other for quite a while, and Chad's background could not possibly be more different from mine because I'm a college boy and he was military and law enforcement and all these things and the car business. And I can't wait to hear some of your story again and share that, and then talk about that, how that rolls into the lifestyle and adventures between beautiful coastal South Carolina and beautiful Colorado. So let's get into it.
Yeah. So what do you want to know?
Chad Weeden, let's talk about, we'll start with Will. Can we start with Will?
Yeah.
I love Will. Chad and Wendy, his wife. Wendy's also a rock star, and I think we need to have a separate podcast with her, although I think she'll never agree to it. So we'll see what happens.
She'll do.
Good, because she is also a rock star in a little different way. But Chad and Wendy have a special needs son who is awesome. His name's Will. He's almost as big as me now. And I really enjoy spending time with Chad and Will.
Yeah. So, this morning we got up at the crack of dawn and he went to men's Bible study with me. So
Yep.
He was all about getting up this morning, and we just dropped him off at his first day of freshman year in high school.
Oh, wow.
So I literally just walked in the door from doing that. But, just from with Will, there's been obviously challenges just in life. We've kind of crafted our business around that. Neither one of us like to work in an office or be tied down. And really, it's not a matter of that we don't want an office. It's just that doesn't
Right.
life.
Right.
I think we could probably get a lot more done if we both had offices, separate offices, or offices with closed doors where we were in like separate, but that's just not how it works. And, I'm downstairs in my office. I call it my dungeon, and she's got the nice office with a bunch of windows and a bunch of daylight. And I'm down here in the dungeon trying to have daytime lights in here to feel like it's
Yeah,
daytime.
it's affecting your mood. I can hear it.
Yeah.
You're in Colorado right now, right?
Yeah. We're in Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah.
Outside of Denver? So
Yeah,
right?
we live in Denver proper, really.
Okay.
We're 20 minutes from downtown, 20 minutes to the airport, which fits everything we do.
Yep.
It works for, last minute ball games, and it works for all the travel that we do. But yeah, we just don't want to be in an office. We've crafted our businesses, both of our businesses. She's a real estate broker, multi-state
Yep.
broker.
And very successful. She's very successful with that.
Yeah.
In two different markets, and two very different markets, very far apart. So
Very far apart.
we'll do that on Wendy's podcast. But
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, kind of how I started. We just moved here, and I took a finance director position at a automotive dealership, and long story short, it was a SHIT show, and I didn't even last there 2.5 weeks before I packed my office up. I literally just waited
wow.
I literally was just I already knew within a week, and unfortunately Wendy kind of was sensing that I was probably going to bounce. But, I already had flips going. I had done some flips. I'd already been wholesaling.
So let's
Yep.
back up a few steps and talk about, did you go right in the military out of high school?
Yeah. 30 days after I graduated, I made sure that I got my ear pierced, pissed off my dad, shaved my head, showed up with a ear pierced ear.
Yeah, I still have mine.
Yeah. I did it when I went to California with my high school girlfriend at the time. Showed back up at home and was kind of like I'm rolling out in 30 days. I mean, you can't say nothing now type deal. So I was kind of a rebel in that sense, which, translates to me being a rebel
Yeah.
pretty much my whole life.
And you were MP, right? Military police?
Yeah, I was a canine handler, MP canine
Yeah.
handler.
I've seen pictures of you with your dog. We'll see if we can dig some of those up with your permission
Yeah,
from social media of a very young Chad
that's
with a
right.
beautiful, I'm going to call it a German police dog.
Yeah, Belgian
Beautiful.
Malinois.
Yeah.
And you know what
yeah,
else
yeah,
was?
yeah.
You know what else was beautiful then?
What?
I had flowing, beautiful hair.
We had some hair. All the pictures I've seen are buzz cut, but yeah, the military police thing and the canine, I mean, that's such a small percentage of the population that people get to actually experience that. So I love that that's kind of part of your formation, as you're saying, talking about coming out of high school, get an earring, wander around for a minute, and then did you find a place in the military or did you feel out of place in the military?
No, I was totally in place in the
Good.
military. I loved the military. I just hated working for senior NCOs that couldn't spell 3 and 4 letter words.
Right. Right.
So that was
Yeah.
for me, from just a leadership standpoint. Most of my officers were pretty good, and I mean I had many NCOs, that were good leaders. But my last few, winding down my last duty station, it was horrendous. And, that was kind of about the point that I was like, do I re-enlist or do I go and chase a law enforcement career in the civilian world? And, ultimately that's what made my decision was I cannot work for freaking idiots.
Right.
Particularly idiots that can't spell anything.
Yeah.
It seemed like.
And
So
that's not universal in the military, but it is.
Yeah.
It's not out of the realm of possibility either.
Yeah. And again, I had a lot of great leaders, a lot of great times, but just that last 18 months, you got 18 months to go. You're trying to figure out, do I, the re-enlistment thing. And then you're
Right.
just slapped with a bunch of stupid NCOs. I was like, all right, I'm out. I got to go. I got to do my own thing, which again has translated to me why I work for myself.
Right. And that's your attitude today too.
So I can be the idiot.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I did not join the military. My dad was an Army aviator in Vietnam. And he chose the path of going to college first and then graduated from college with a engineering degree. I was born a month later, and then he went to Vietnam for a 13-month rotation. So he was hardcore. He's 81 years old. And
Yeah.
he's making ammunition in this garage right now. And I had a similar experience when I joined ROTC in college. I did not enjoy the people in that particular group. And it doesn't mean the whole military's that way or anything's
Right.
anything. That my particular class, I was like, I don't want to spend years with these people. So I opted out because I had a choice. And my dad was like, there's no war. You don't have to do it. He didn't have a choice. So it's nice that we have choices. And I know you've made some pretty incredible choices in your life let's talk about right after the military. Did you go straight into law enforcement or something else?
Yeah, I went straight into law enforcement. I started working with county sheriff's department in Columbia.
Okay.
And so I ended up at Richland County right when I got out of the military. So I actually started working while I still had like 45 or 60 days of terminal leave.
Right.
So I
Right.
actually started my job when I was on leave. I actually really didn't even take a break. I was out, and then 2 weeks later, started at the sheriff's office.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that was the beginning to kind of where I'm at now, really.
Yeah. And how did you get so you were with the Richland County Sheriff's Department in South Carolina, and then how did you transition from that to the car business?
So I had a buddy that was a finance manager in the car business that I actually knew from my military days. He dated somebody that I knew through the military. We were workout buddies and would see each other somewhat regularly. And I just remember just leaving. Went to work out one day with him. I was aggravated because I had to go to AA, and it was over just some BS. And I was just bitching. Like, this is, I mean, I've been on nights. You have to write
Yeah.
a stinking statement for this stupidness. Didn't do anything wrong. And he was like, man, you need to go into the car business. He's like, you need to get into car business now. You'll get into management pretty quick.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, yeah, right. Yeah, okay, sure. And that was kind of how it started. And then, like, months later, I was like the same situation back in IA, writing a statement. We're paid to go out and fight crime and dealing with frivolous,
Right.
BS. And so, of course, I'm like, I call him like, hey, I'm on the way. I just left IA.
What is
I'll
IA?
be there. Internal affairs for complaints. So, so I'm like, I get there and he says, hey man, I'm telling you, you need to come, you need to get in the car business. You'll quadruple your salary.
Yeah.
Just selling cars.
Right.
So he kind of got my attention. And just, one day I just called him like, hey, who's that you wanted me to talk to at Dick Smith, which ended up being a very good mentor of mine. And so I made the phone call to Eddie, and that's how I started. I started on the sales floor and just learned the sales game. Was very successful at that.
Yep.
And then it wasn't long after I started that I was, in Eddie's office one evening, and he said, you'll stick with me. Your neighbors will be doctors and lawyers. And
Yeah.
I knew that to be the fact because I'd become friends with a lot of the other managers. When you talk about feeling like you're not fitting in, boy, coming from military law enforcement onto the sales floor in the car business,
Right.
I think I had some things in common with maybe like 2 out of 20 some salespeople. Like,
Right.
I
They're
was
not
like,
exactly buttoned up, put together, squared
yeah, I
away.
mean, I didn't have the drinking problems and like like all of these things that people have got going on, and not that all car salesmen are that way.
No. Cole Beaver was in car sales. Grant Cardone was in car sales. I
Yeah.
mean, Chad Weeden was in car sales.
Yeah.
I mean, there are exceptions to the rule, but there's a lot of. I love Grant Cardone and Seller Be Sold.
Yep.
Talks about the furniture.
Yeah.
And you know what the furniture is?
Yep.
The furniture is the guys who have been there for 10 years.
Yes.
And he said, so I come in and I do my thing, and I look over and the furniture's still there,
Yep.
being furniture.
Yeah.
Speaking of human beings being furniture, I've never worked in the car business, but I've worked in some pretty similar industries where I was like, I recognize who are the go-getters and who's the furniture.
That's very, very true, because in the car business, there's this thing called 90-day wonder. And, when I started, I was actually probably the opposite of some 90-day wonders, because I was there for 3 weeks and never even sold a car.
Hmm.
And I started in July of 03, and I went 3 weeks without selling a car. I had a week and a half left in the month, and I've got Eddie, who's my mentor now, telling me, man, I don't know that you're gonna make it, man. You're running through my ups. You're not logging it. Like,
Right.
You need to get something sold. I normally don't hire green peas, and this is why. So like the pressure was on.
And then what happened?
And I sold 8 cars in a week and a half.
Right.
And
I love it.
I made more than what I would have made from my whole month's paycheck at the sheriff's department. So then I was like,
yeah,
because I'm telling you, I was about to go back to the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
I was like ready. I'm like, all right, I'm going to give it. So then when that happened, I was like, all right, I'm going to give this another month. So
Right.
then in August, I sold 12 and a half cars, and I made $6,500 on 12 and a half cars, not knowing anything what I was doing.
Yeah.
And this is back in 03. So that was pretty dang good. And then I was like, oh, okay. Now I think I'll stay another month. And then the furniture that you're talking about were those same people saying, you might be doing it now, but guess what? Winter months are coming.
Right.
The fall months, the slow months.
They have a problem for every solution.
Yeah, that's when you wash out.
So
and
how do you sell half a car?
You had a split with another salesperson.
Okay, that's okay.
So I guess somebody came in on my day off or something like that. Yeah. So if somebody came in on my day off, and me and you are help each other out.
Sure.
You do the deal, and
so it's 12 and a half commissions, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
But I could see why that would excite you.
Yeah.
At that stage of life.
Yeah. So it wasn't all that. It wasn't long after that's kind of how I was like, Eddie really taught me the sales game and how to make money.
Yeah.
And then when you talk about Grant Cardone, I was immersed in Grant Cardone. He would come
Right.
to his people would come to the dealerships. I went to his gatherings 4 or 5 times. And the last time that I went to one of his events was in Charlotte, and it was specifically on leasing. And our company was not big on leasing. And man, I did that month after I came back from that event. I did like 25 cars, and freaking like 70% of them were leases.
Wow.
I mean, I literally paid for me and Wendy's wedding and all
So
of
you
our
paid
stuff
attention, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and I used everything on that, and it was like, I mean, our company had at the time, I think we had 8 stores, and as far as leases go, I had done as many leases as the whole company had done.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. So like Grant Cardone, when you talk about mentorship and people and going to events, anybody that's new in the real estate investing game, you've got to go to those things. That's how me and you really met.
Yeah.
Was at a Tom Cole event.
That's true.
In Asheville.
Right.
It was the first time I met you.
That's right. That was, what, 7 years ago? 8 years ago?
And you're like, I live in Charleston. I do stuff in Columbia. And I'm like, yeah, I like just quit my job and I live in Denver and I'm got some flips going. So, I mean, you would check on my stuff when I was here. And then when I would fly in and you were in Charleston, I would check on your stuff. So that's
right.
kind of really how
you called me a week or 2 ago and said, hey, do you have anything I need to check on? I'm in Columbia.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, actually, I was just up there. I'm good. But I mean, you have checked on things for me before, and we do that teamwork. So tell us a story about military, police, or law enforcement, or something crazy, scary, funny, just some sort of story about that.
Oh gosh. Oh man. You got so many. Now you put me on the spot. Crazy or funny? How about crazy? Because I tell my kids this.
Crazy's good.
I tell my kids about this quite a bit. Every time I'm on Shop Road driving by Abbott Street, I think it was on Abbott Street, going towards the stadium, I always laugh. But I can remember I was first at the sheriff's. When I first started at the sheriff's office, I was on night, so I was in Region 1, and I'm on, I think it was at Abbott Street. I'm just cruising down Abbott. It's pitch black, and just some street lights. See this lady walking down the road, walking towards me, and I'm like, is that blood running down her face? So she's got like blood running down her face, and then I get next to her. I roll my window down to talk to her, and she's got a fork stuck right in her head.
Oh my God!
Yeah, like literally right in her temple. Bam! And so I'm like, oh my gosh, what in the world? Her and her brother, this happens all the time, got into a big Thanksgiving argument and fight, like a whole family fight, a couple doors down. And she was just walking back to her house with a fork stuck in her head, her temple. Of course, I call EMS, and of course, nobody wanted to press charges or anything. So, of course, that's probably one of the funniest stories. So, whenever we're together for holidays, I always...
Yeah, that's funny and scary at the same time. I love it.
I always tell my kids, hey, be careful. Might have a fork stuck in your head like I've seen before.
I have a similar story that happened over Thanksgiving where I had a seller that I had a contract for 4 houses and 5 lots that he had inherited. And he was alcoholic, drug addict, and I really got to like the guy, but I had to like through the whole process. I would drive him to his accountant's office. I would drive, and then I'd stop at the gas station and buy him a couple of beers on the way home so he could survive the night. And then to the lawyer's office and I lost him on Thanksgiving. We were supposed to close a week after Thanksgiving. Totally lost him. I bought him a cell phone, like a burner phone that he could use, and put them in a extended stay hotel. So I'm knocking on the door of the extended stay hotel, and he opens the door with a big bandage on his head. And his wife is just out of her mind on drugs or alcohol or whatever in the back of the hotel room. He said, can you believe that bitch threw a can of corn at me? And I said, what are you talking about? And he pulled the bandage back, and my stomach turned because there's this gash in his head. And he said, I just got out of jail. Bitch hit me with a can of corn, and I go to jail.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, I have no idea what's happening right now. We have a closing in 2 days. What do you need? I mean, please put that bandage back. I mean, it was gnarly. And she had thrown a can of corn and split his head open. And then, of course, he flipped out and went to jail for a couple of days. So I couldn't find him.
Oh my
God. It's kind of like a fork stuck in the temple. I mean, it was very similar Thanksgiving brings out the best in families.
That's right, especially nowadays.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, they had been to the food pantry and got a bunch of stuff for Thanksgiving, and she threw a can of corn at them. So,
That's good. See, there
so
you go.
um, I love the lifestyle that you and your family live, and you're from Colorado originally, right?
Yeah.
And Wendy's from beautiful Eastover, South Carolina. Is that right?
Oh, she's gonna be so mad that that's actually live on video. She's actually from Hopkins, but I just mess with her.
Hopkins. I'm sorry.
I just mess with her that she's from Eastover because
Oh, okay.
when she gets mad, she goes Eastover.
Okay. South Carolinians will understand this, the rest won't, but
Well, I mean, here's even better. You get her really mad, which takes a lot, but when you get her to that point, not only is she from Eastover, but she can speak Geechee.
she gonna go Geechee on you?
You can go Geechee, and those that live down around the Low Country, Charleston, they know about that.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. We know about going Geechee. I love it. So you guys, did you meet in law enforcement? How did you meet?
So we met through some friends and started dating from there. And
Okay.
then, I ended up getting out, left the sheriff's office, and started working in the car business. So
Yeah.
I was
And so now you split your time, or you spend almost all your time in Colorado now. But you have businesses. I mean, Wendy has a business, and you have a business in Columbia, South Carolina.
yeah. So the kids go to school during the school year here, and then our oldest is a senior this
Here
year.
in Denver.
Here in Denver, yeah.
Right.
So our kids go to school here in Denver, and then we spend as a family all together. We're in South Carolina for 4 months total of the year. Usually we're doing we'll do 2 weeks for Thanksgiving. We're doing 2 weeks for Christmas. We do spring break, pretty much all of summer, and then I actually spend probably about half of my time, or more than half of my time, in South Carolina because I travel back and forth more than Wendy does. I think that's probably one good thing about Wendy's business, and she's a much better business person than I am, which is really probably why she don't need to go as much. She doesn't go back as much as I do, and when you're in the flipping game, you got to be you can't be completely absent.
Right.
Right. And all these people selling this, that we do this virtually, and I don't ever travel to my market, and blah blah blah. Percentage wise, there's only a few of those people that can do that. I could do that, but hell, I've already lost money. Every time I do that, I lose money.
Right.
So I mean, it's like, okay, maybe these people just either they have way better systems. I know some of these people they don't have as better systems than I've got, or B, their threshold to losing money is just much higher than mine, which is usually the case. So I would say, flipping, if you're flipping, I think you definitely have to be somewhat hands-on. I just don't think you can be 100% virtual flipping.
Yeah. So you do a lot of marketing direct to seller, and you and I've had this conversation many times. You've never really wholesaled much of anything.
No, I stopped wholesaling, and I stopped wholesaling completely in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I stopped wholesaling completely in 2018 when I moved here.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, as far as and when
that's about the time I got into Columbia.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll preface, I started out my business wholesaling. Not saying that I haven't done any wholesale deals. The last wholesale deal I did was probably back in 2022 or 2021 is the last.
But you generate the leads.
Yeah.
To create your own flips, and do you create some listings for Wendy?
Yeah, we create listings for Wendy, and that's kind of always been the case, even when I first started wholesaling. But when I started looking, I had a pretty high income to replace walking away from the car business, and so when I was looking at my income, if I wanted to make 200 grand a year, to back into and at the time when I was wholesaling, a average deal in Columbia was like 5 to 7 grand.
Right.
Wholesaling.
A lot of volume.
Yeah, that would be in a lot of volume. I mean, fortunately, when I was wholesaling, my average was much, much more than that. That's just because I had a lot more sales experience than pretty much everybody else out there.
Right. Right.
at the time. So, I mean, when I backed into my numbers, our average wholesale deal was 12 to 15 grand.
Right.
So when I backed into those numbers, it was still a lot of deals
Right.
to get that done per year.
Well, and you have a lot of marketing expense to subtract from that too.
Marketing expense and all of that. You know, when you're just working off, all right, these are the averages. Maybe I'm just getting lucky on some of these because these lower averages, being in the car business, averages are averages.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I based everything off of, all right, if I was going to do $10,000 average assignment fee and I wanted to make 500 grand a year, man, that's a lot of damn work to do that is how I felt.
Right.
Especially when I was wholesaling these deals to the end buyers and then I'm looking at what they were making at the
Right.
end. And I mean, some of these were just softball deals too, right? They're just on a pig. I mean, you know that they at the time, you know, they didn't spend more than 20 grand, maybe 25 grand to do the repair. You know, they're making another 70,000 on top of what I made.
Yeah. So why wouldn't you keep the 10
Right.
and the 70?
So that's kind of how that
Yeah.
that's kind of how that started. And I was like, you know what? I think with wholesaling, I actually didn't really like at the time. Wholesaling was kind of just getting fired up. I didn't like the fact that I was sitting there telling somebody I'm going to close. I'm the one that's closing. Even if when we were doing it the other way, hey, I've got a list of buyers and I'm going to find somebody to assign your contract to, all of those things. I just didn't like that. So I was like, you know what? And then when you start thinking about building a team out, I'm like, all right, I got to have a transaction coordinator. I've got to have a dispo. I've got to have acquisitions. I've got to have all these people that actually directly work for me. And I didn't like the idea of that either. Yeah, I've been through that in our other business.
Right.
So I was like, how can I build this where I have just a small core team and we can make the income that we want to make? That's really kind of
So the gold nugget, and I have Ryan tag these, gold nugget is build the team you want and build the life you want, and not what we should do.
Right.
Because Tony Robbins, a favorite Tony Robbins quote of mine is, don't should all over yourself. And I feel like a lot of times I've been there too. I had a team of 5 a couple of years ago, and it's, well, we should, and we have to, I mean, you have to do this, you have to, and at some point it doesn't fit our goals, our plan, or the lifestyle that we want. And you're able to accomplish that because I know you pretty well.
Yeah.
We socialize a lot, and I know that spending time in Denver, I mean, I see your social media, you and Will going skiing, you and Ava Grace going skiing, the whole family going skiing, and Denver's an hour and a half from Denver. I understand that.
Yeah.
And it feels like you can ski in Denver, but you can ski about 2 hours away.
Yep.
I get that. But you guys, I mean, you enjoy that. And then, I know you spend some time in the Florida Keys, which we have, my family has a house in Key Largo, and we have been going to the Keys for about 30 years. So I know you enjoy the Keys. And then my parents live in Beaufort, South Carolina, and your in-laws live in Beaufort, South Carolina. So you enjoy the low country waters. But the lifestyle thing to me is what you were just slogging through in this conversation about the team, and you have to have this and you have to have that. And for some people, that's very energizing.
Yeah.
And for other people, and I'm more on your team, team is demoralizing to me in a lot of ways. So, the motivation is to find what works for Chad and Wendy and Will and Ava Grace for the family.
Yeah.
And that's Colorado, South Carolina. I mean, I love the way, it doesn't mean it's easy and it's always fun, but
No, it's not.
you've engineered this for yourselves.
Yeah.
You and Wendy as a team, I feel like.
There's
tell
the
me if
gold
I'm
nugget
wrong.
right there is what you said is it's not easy. Everybody thinks that it's easy and I see you doing this, you see you doing that. Like, I tell you, the challenges that I've had the last 18 months, I promise you, nobody listening to this and people I know personally would never want to go through what we've gone through. Most people probably wouldn't even make it through it.
Right.
Like just from the market shift and, all the money that we've lost.
Right.
Like, all of those things. And then all of that, I still could not do anything what we do without the team that I have.
Right.
So like my team where we're at now is like, I'm good with that. I'm energized. I like that.
So talk about your team, talk about the team that does work for you.
So I've got, I joined Investor Fuel and at that time I had been just kind of I was basically a one-man show. I had
Right.
had some acquisitions people doubling as project managers. Like I had tried that, and then um, I had no acquisition project manager at one meeting that I went to, one of the meetings I went to. And I was talking about that. And my Cambrad, I'll never forget, he was just like, every meeting I mean, this went on for like a year. He's like, every meeting, he said, you have got to have an assistant, like an executive assistant. You need an assistant. You don't need somebody to go and close deals for you. You can do that in your sleep.
Right.
You don't need anybody to manage the contractors because it sounds like you have good contractors. You have people that you know, like, and trust that, yeah, they need to be managed, but you don't need a person managing them. You can do that from afar, and you like to travel back to your market. Like, you have all those things in place. You have got to hire an assistant. Otherwise, you're going to be in the same circle. And so finally, I listened to somebody and I hired an assistant. She's got all my credit card numbers. She handles all of our company bills. Like the only thing I took back and handled personally, still to this day, and I've pretty much always handled, is just paying contractor invoices. But outside of that, the only bills that I handle for our company is just, our marketing spend, which that's automatic with, I do TV and Google ads. So all that's automated pretty much.
Well, that's one of the advantages of our graybeards is you learn to hire people who do things, who enjoy doing things that we don't enjoy doing and are exceptionally good at the things that need to be done that I'm going to keep pushing over to the corner of my desk.
Yeah.
And say, this is more important. It's not more important. I just enjoy it more.
Yeah.
So I'm going to push the important stuff to the side and having someone, Ryan's giving me, like publishing the podcast. Yes, like publishing the podcast. That's a job for Ryan. That is not a job for us, because what would happen is we'd record 100 podcasts and you would never see them, because I'm going to push it over to the corner of my desk and go buy properties or, go to an event or something. Yes. Having a podcast producer is definitely an example, or an executive assistant like you have.
I mean, the assistant is, and I still hear this in fuel meetings, folks struggling with that, with the same thing. And an assistant was like the number one thing. That's when we really started increasing our business.
Mm-hmm.
And it allowed me to take, because Lauren like I said, not only does she handle it, but she handles everything with the closing. Like our closing attorney they don't even talk to me. Half the time they don't even cue me in on emails. Like Lauren,
so transaction coordination.
Yeah, she's handled all of that for a very long time. So that, like, she handles all of that. So that's a pretty busy part of a business when you've got a bunch of properties.
It is, but it's also repetitive.
It's repetitive, right?
It's not exactly the same every time, but it's pretty damn similar every time.
Yeah, it is. And so for her, it's great. She works with us, and she's stay at home.
Okay.
It works. It works for all of us. So and then so from there, I've got a project manager.
So, interrupt you. Do you and Wendy share this assistant?
No. Wendy's got her own.
She has her own.
So a lot of people think that Wendy and I are the same business. We are, in fact, completely opposite businesses.
Well, that's the reason I asked, because I get the impression that you're two different businesses. Yep. And I wanted to make that clear to our listeners and watchers, whatever we call viewers.
Viewers, yeah.
That even though you and Wendy, I think one of the secrets to your success, and this was a failure for me in my marriage and business partnership, is we were stepping on each other's feet all the time. And that can be really hard on a marriage and hard on a business. But I feel like you, especially because I know Wendy, and she has a good, strong personality.
Yeah.
And so do you.
Yeah.
And you can say, do your thing, I'll do my thing, and you respect each other. So I love the fact you're not trying to share an assistant. I feel like that can be a dangerous game for a married couple.
Yeah, no, we don't, like, as far as people on our teams, we don't share anything. I've got my team. She's got hers. We have our good months. She seems to always have good months now. We have our bad months. She's always having a good month. It seems like that's been the way it's been going. That's but that's the great thing about it, right? I mean, the reality is if something happened to me tomorrow, she can still flip houses. She knows everything that we do, and I have people in place that could still make it happen. And then she's killer at sales, but she's also very good at business. But if something happened to her, on her side of the business, I know that business, but not like she knows that side, the retail side of the business.
Gotcha.
We could keep people in place, and her assistant's also a broker. Like we could structure things to stay in business that way. But that's the retail side of the business. I don't know that I have anything to do with it.
It's good to think about those things. I mean, we don't want to think about it. My wife has a birthday today. We're all getting older. A good friend of mine died not long ago at all, 2 years younger than I am. And I mean, you don't see that coming. And having some sort of a plan. And I have a Google Drive file that's every password. It's protected, but it's everything, every bank account. Because God, I thought about it this morning. I have 9 bank accounts. I mean, that stuff needs to be clear to somebody who can pass that on to the spouse from both directions. Should something happen, which it won't, it's going to be a long time, but who knows?
Right. Yeah.
You could go elk hunting and get trampled and eaten by a bear. I mean, it could happen. Knowing you.
Yeah.
That's the way you would go.
Or fall and hit my head on some of this crazy stuff that we hike up, like,
right. Right.
But the beautiful thing about how we have things set up is, like, I'm going to be bow hunting for 10 days in September, and where we're going, I don't have any signal. I'll just be on my Garmin.
I know. I tried to call you one time.
Yeah. And
a couple of years ago, I was like, Chad, and it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll call you back
like
3 days.
Year, right? It's like, all right, hey, to our contractors, if you have any invoices that need to be paid, you need to have them to me by this date, because if you send me an invoice during this time period, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just not going to have signal. But I do text. I can text. I can't talk on the phone, but I can text back and forth. So like our contractors, I'll text and they'll have my Garmin, my InReach number to be able to get in touch with me.
Because you're going to be you're going to be horseback bow hunting.
Yeah.
For what, like 10 days?
Yeah, 10 days. Like, I'm accessible, but I can't get on a phone. I don't have internet. I can't go and wire or transfer money or, anything like that. So, but
you prepare the contractors ahead of time. Your business runs. Yeah. It's not like your business closes and doesn't operate. I mean, it operates differently while you're gone.
Yeah, I mean, I've got an operations manager, so I don't need to worry about really, penciling deals or reviewing deals, and are we going to buy this? Now, I do review everything with them still. Right. It's just what we do. But if it's like a slam deal, if it's not something that he's worried about, like, they can buy the house. They can do it and get it done and contracted. In closings, I'll know if we're going to have a closing coming up. So I'll have things, I'll know if I'm going to have a closing within that 10-day or 14-day period. Yeah. So I can make arrangements to make sure that we are still able to perform on closings.
I know you and Wendy live that lifestyle. And when I took my family on a 9-week RV trip, we had 4 closings.
Yeah.
During that 9 weeks. And I was an idiot about the West. I'm an East Coast guy. I know the Southeast. I was born in Texas, but I was an infant, so I don't know about that. But I know the Southeast. And so we get an RV. I go to AT&T. I buy this little hotspot thing. This was like 7 years ago. And I was like, cool. So I'm going to be able to work from the road. Wrong.
Yeah.
Because in Montana, Wyoming, Utah, there's no cell phone signal. Yeah. And a hotspot, I was a dumbass. I didn't realize a hotspot had to have cell phone activity to be able to link my computer to it. And so I remember standing on a park bench outside Yellowstone Lodge, hadn't showered in 2 days. Standing on a park bench, trying to listen to a repair addendum because I couldn't open my email.
Yep.
And finally, I went into the Yellowstone Lodge. It was just gorgeous if you've ever been there. Yellowstone National Park,
3 times.
Just incredible. And we were dirty bums staying in the campground across the road. But I went in and I said, is there any possible way that you have a business center with a scanner and a printer and I'll pay whatever, because I just have to get this deal done. And it's like an hour and a half drive to get out of the
That
park.
was close.
And, and so they were so gracious. And the guy gave me a room key. He said, to get in the business center, you have to be a guest of the lodge. He said, don't go to this room, but you can go to the business center. And I spent a couple of hours in there. There was cell signal, and there were, there was all this, and was able to get it done. And then we go to the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone that afternoon and watch the waterfall. So that lifestyle, and I know you guys do similar things.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think about you on a horse packing out an elk. I mean, I've seen the pictures.
Yeah.
And during our RV trip, we closed 4 sales. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
I've got a story for all 4 of how difficult it was. The other thing we learned is that truck stops in New Mexico will print for you and scan for you, but it's like $1.50 a page.
It can get expensive, especially when you're doing a closing packet.
Right.
And
so
I've been elk hunting horseback, but it's called hunting for a reason. And unfortunately, I've not packed anything out. I've just worked my ass off for days and days and days on end to not get anything. So hopefully that'll change this year.
Right.
We're going early in the season, but bow seasons, or later in the bow season this year. So
that's only a couple of months away. We'll send pictures. I love it.
Yeah, that'd be great. It's gonna be a good time. So
yeah, so you have your team that has evolved over the past few years. Wendy has her team. I really not that you need my advice or any input, but I really like the way you kind of keep things parallel but separate.
Yeah, we have to.
And you're not stepping on each other's feet.
And I'll say that's the wonderful thing about like my wife having her own business, her own thing. She don't need me.
Right.
For sure. Other than maybe help raise the kids.
You spend a ton of time with your kids.
A lot, yeah.
I mean, you spend a lot of time, you and Wendy both, but I know, every time I see you, I see Will, unless he's in school.
Yeah.
And, if he's out of school, he's with you. And I've hung out with Ava Grace too. And it's just, I love the fact that you're so available for your family.
Yeah. Here's what's crazy is you learn, you freaking slam your head against the wall in business, and you learn the hard way. And that was one of the hard things that we learned in our first business when we owned a bunch of gyms and had a bunch of people run around. And that was a very personal business. It wasn't a Globo gym. It was a bunch of CrossFit gyms. And that's a very personal business. So when you tried to get out of your business, that it was not easy to have multiple locations. You had a lot of people. And the one that suffered in the most of that was our oldest daughter, Savannah, who's now almost 26 years old because, she was a teenager. She's in like seventh grade.
Right.
When we first opened our business. It might even have been 6th grade when we first opened our business. And then we've got Will's diagnosis. He's a little guy. We've got all of that going on, being business owners. And, really, she's the one that, if there's anybody out of our kids that says, I never want to be my own business owner, it probably could be Savannah. She got the short end of the stick when you're talking about time.
Yes.
And family traveling, because she says that all the time now. She's like, my God, why didn't you guys do this with me? I mean, you take Will and everything. You guys are going like everywhere. I mean, that's the hard part, right?
That hurts.
Yeah, that one hurts, man. It's like, hey,
you didn't know then what you know now.
No, it's like, hey, Savannah, we had to learn the hard way. That was not like we just bought ourselves another 3 full-time jobs.
Yeah.
When we did that. So, I mean, things are, there was not that kind of flexibility. So that's kind of how we've crafted that. And when you talk about family time, here's a gold nugget. This was been talked about in the men's Bible study and in church a couple weeks ago. Our pastor said, you will spend 70%, I think it was 70% of your time with your children, or it might have been 75% of your time with your children the first 13 years. After that, actually spending time with them, if you think about that, after they're 13, you only have 25% of your time on earth to spend with them. And that is very true. That doesn't mean that you're not talking to them on the phone, but that means like spending time with them, going places and doing
Right.
things together, and just being as a family. So when you talk about that, I do feel like we've done a fairly decent job with that this second go around with Will and Ava, and because now she's got her wheels and her car, and we hardly ever see her. She's a senior in high school. She don't really
Right.
want to hang out with us.
Right.
So that's very true.
Yeah. I have a 26-year-old daughter as well.
Yep.
And I know what you're saying. Just dropped her off at USC, University of South Carolina. And I've called her twice and texted her twice, and I haven't heard jack. But she is talking to my wife and to her siblings. But she's like, "Dad, I'll call you right back." And of course, I haven't heard.
Right. That's because she thinks that you're the one that's least worried about her. Everybody else is more worried about her. So
yeah.
she's not even worried about you.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to hear how she's doing. I'm not worried about her. She's a smart human and very capable, and she knows that if she needs something, she can call me. But
yeah,
it is precious, the time that you and I have been able to have with our kids when they're in elementary and middle school, and not like Savannah or my older daughter Kat, where it's just head down in the grindstone, and you can't do the things that we're able to do now, or at least you don't think you can. So if you're watching this or listening to this, and if you can craft a lifestyle that includes the things that are important to you, in our case, kids, I think are really important. And some of the experiences are just remarkable, and being able to do business at the same time.
Yeah.
What we do is risky, but having a job is fucking risky too.
Oh, without a doubt.
Because especially when you get to be my age and you show up for work. I mean, I just had a conversation with somebody a few days ago off the air, and they were like, "Yeah, my dad was 56, and they just said, you don't work here anymore." And he said, "I've been here 30 years." And they said, "Well, that was a good 30 years. You don't work here anymore."
Right.
And you're 56, then, and have to, this man had to go, and, it was heartbreaking for him. And, we struggle. You and I, sometimes it's hard to pay the bills. Sometimes it's hard to figure out situations, but nobody can say you don't have a job anymore.
Right.
Right.
Here's what I tell everybody. I am 1000% unemployable.
Right.
Like, no matter how low the valleys are in our businesses.
Yeah.
I am unemployable.
Yeah.
I will never go back to the car business.
Right.
I will never go and work for anybody ever again. Like, I mean, that's just it's not going to happen. And you talking about this reminds me of the short conversation we had the other day about doing this podcast. Was you're talking about my experience in the car business and other people, what they were doing in the car business while I was doing what I was doing. And that's really come full circle, because the company that I left, every manager there had been there for a very, very long time. Like, there was like literally no manager turnover at our company. I mean, people thought that I came back a second time for a couple years, and people thought I was just absolutely insane for leaving walking away a second.
Why would you leave?
And why did I leave? Because ultimately I realized that it's like a domestic violence relationship. It's like there's a cycle in domestic violence relationships, and you learn this when you're in law enforcement or whatever.
Right.
But you have what's called the honeymoon phase. Like, all the bad shit goes down, and then you're in this honeymoon phase. And for the first, we literally in our first business bought ourselves a whole full-time job. Like, we did that business for 5 years, and we've like, okay, we need to renew leases. We're not doing this. Can you do this another 5 years? No. Answer is no. So I went back to what I know, and had a great opportunity to go back and do that, and just worry about what's in front of my screen and how many deals I got on my desk, and talking to some customers here and there. And that was the honeymoon phase. I was back just only focused on that, making really good money. I was back in the kill. I loved sales. I loved
the thrill of
the deals. Like, I loved all of that. I loved finance. I loved all of that. I loved going to lunch with bank reps. I loved going to the NASCAR races with bank reps. I loved that job.
Yeah.
I really loved it. What I hated was, one, family time, which I had experienced in our first business, even though I didn't have to ask to go on vacation. I didn't have to we had a lot of family time. So that was missing. That was number one. And then number two, I just hated working every weekend. Like we crafted our other business to where we just would have like a Saturday morning class, but I was off on Saturdays and Sundays. And then Fridays, I pretty much didn't work because I had other members covering classes for us. So, I mean, I kind of had like this built-in 3-day week. So I didn't care if I worked 15 hours a day, Monday through Thursday. I had 3-day weekends, and that poof went away. So once the money wore off, that's when the honeymoon phase was over. And that lasted, that took a little while, a couple of years, like year and a half. So that's kind of how I ended up leaving a second time. But our conversation going back to that we had was all my buddies while they were playing Clash of Clans and watching all these stupid YouTube videos and just effing off in the hurry up and wait game, because that's what the car business is when you're in management.
Right.
Or even in sales, it's hurry up and wait. So there's a lot of downtime. And so in that downtime, I was teaching myself real estate, wholesaling, really investing and digging into that. Started listening to podcasts and started digging into that. So, of course, most of the people that I worked with thought I was an idiot because I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to start flipping houses and I'm going to use OPM. And they're like, what's OPM? Other people's money. So I'd have salesmen, other managers coming by and like, hey, how's that OPM going? And then I started wholesaling houses and I started making as much as I was sitting in my office. Not even trying, like doing literally like 10, 20% of my time doing that. That's really how it started. So when it comes to full circle, our company, the company I was with, literally none of those managers and none of those salespeople, none of those finance, like nobody is there anymore. They've had a change from the top. This long-time COO was with the company, retired, and somebody else is in there running that company as a COO and has come in and just cleaned house.
There's a gold nugget here, and I remember this one of the first times I ever hung out with you years ago, and you told me that story about working in the car dealership. And I've worked in a different kind of retail. I was a kitchen and bath designer, and we had an appliance showroom, and it was the same thing. You had to wait for clients to come in. The difference was I usually had drawings and estimates to do in between. But when you told me the story about, everybody's playing video games on their phones or, watching YouTube videos waiting for the next customer to come in, instead you're educating yourself on how to do marketing for the real estate, off-market real estate business, direct-to-seller marketing. And you gave me at that time, this was 7-8 years ago, a pretty detailed description of what you studied and what you learned and what you implemented, sitting at your desk in the car dealership, and nobody cares because you've got nothing else to do, and a customer comes in, right? You make the switch and you're all on for the customer. But for people watching this I didn't hate my W-2 job.
I didn't either.
I actually enjoyed a lot of aspects of it. But when presented with the freedom of spending a lot more time with my kids and working hours that I selected, I also became unemployable pretty quickly after that sinks in. But I love in particular the way, because I shortcut it and paid a coach and said, just teach me. You taught yourself. I know other people who have taught themselves. Yeah. I'm not sure I could do that. I don't really have the right personality for that. But I really respect what you did by taking your time and you still did your W-2 job, but there's just so much downtime that you could use.
So that when you say I taught myself, what's crazy is the verticals in the car business and the flipping, wholesaling, that the verticals literally are the same. Like when I was doing finance, we had loan to value. We could advance X amount % over MSRP with some banks to cover up negative equity. Like you could draw so much on, to cover negative equity. All of the things that I was doing, assigning contracts, we would assign contracts to banks for financing. So somebody comes in and we would, finance them at 5.99 and we don't know what bank we're going to send it to. And then we just work the banks for who's going to give the lower rate that's going to pay us the most money. And then assign that contract. So it could be Bank of America one day, it could be All South the next day, or So
if you're listening or watching right now, don't leave the podcast because Chad just dropped a gold nugget bomb here. You can assign contracts for all sorts of things. This very morning, I had to drive to East Cooper Boatyard and pick something up for my dad. And my buddy Andy used to own East Cooper boatyard. He sold it and moved to Florida. But he would assign contracts for boats all the time. And he learned that from the real estate business. He came in that way. And then, you can assign contracts. My buddy Jonathan owns a landscaping company. And if you know Charleston geography, he lived in Mount Pleasant and he was mowing lawns all over the 3 counties. And he was like, I have enough business that I can only work in Mount Pleasant and never have to cross the bridge. And so he assigned his commercial landscaping contracts to 2 buddies in other parts of the city and got a little paycheck, and then they assigned theirs in Mount Pleasant to him. So that assignment of contract, a lot of times in real estate, we act like it's this weird, mysterious, maybe it's legal, maybe it's not, whatever. It's happening in industries of all kinds. So I hope you held in to the end of the podcast, because that is a giant gold nugget that Chad just dropped about learning how similar other businesses are to this, and especially the assignment of contract thing. I mean, that blew my mind the first time Andy told me, and I'll tell the story in another podcast, maybe even have Andy on to talk about assigning contracts for boats, because it's remarkable. It's a service to the seller. It's a service to the buyer, and he makes money in the middle. Let's go. Why not?
Yep. I mean, that's how I started. I'm like, oh, hey, this is cars, houses.
Right.
Like,
it's very similar.
Actual cash value on a trade in a car, and what somebody's house is really worth, and how much do we have to put in it, and how much can I get financed by the bank? Like, it's just very similar.
Thank you so much for joining us, Chad. I knew it would be fun, and it has been a lot of fun.
I appreciate you having me.
And if you're watching this, like, subscribe, ring the bell on YouTube, and leave us some comments, questions for Chad, questions for me, questions for Ryan, our producer, about how this shit actually happens in the virtual world.
That's right.
But join us again. This has been great, Chad. And tell Wendy I'd love to have her on at some point.
Yeah. Get her scheduled. She'll be around. She'll be around when I'm hunting.
Okay. All right. Sounds good, man. Y'all enjoy your afternoon and go buy something or sell something.
That's right. That's the name of the game. I appreciate it, brother.
All right, bud. Take care.
See you.
Bye.